Who is Keir Starmer? And what does he believe? A man with no favorite song, no favorite book. A man who doesn't even dream. What would someone like that do in power? He told you he wouldn't raise your taxes. He told you he'd put country before party. He promised accountability and transparency. Well, he's been Prime Minister for over a year. And since then, Britain has suffered because he simply doesn't know what he's doing. He had no plan for Britain's economy, so he and Rachel Reeves decided to pay for their borrowing by taxing everyone else. Pensioners with his winter fuel cut, farmers with his family farms tax, businesses with higher national insurance. The results? Catastrophic. Inflation has doubled, food prices are soaring, unemployment at its highest since the pandemic, over 150,000 jobs lost, and Britain's debt climbing out of control. He promised to smash the gangs, but had no plan to achieve it. Small boat arrivals are at record highs, and now he wants illegal immigrants moved in next door to you. Hit by a series of disastrous resignations and sackings, his transport secretary resigned for fraud, his anti-corruption minister forced out under corruption allegations, his homelessness minister quit after making her tenants homeless. Angela Rayner, gone. Caught evading tax. And Peter Manson sacked for his links to notorious paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Chaos. This is Keir Starmer's government. Open borders. An economy in free fall, a weak Prime Minister, mild scandal, no plan for Britain. Britain deserves better. A leader with backbone, with conviction. A team ready to get Britain back on track. Stronger economy, stronger borders. The only party who can deliver that are the Conservatives.
Welcome to our greenhouses. There's 25 acres here of greenhouse and 1.3 million strawberry plants. Now the point is that we're growing them all the year round, so you can get Dyson strawberries at Christmas. We don't need to import strawberries.
Well, let me know if there's one of them that I can eat, because now I'm seeing strawberries everywhere. I'm getting quite hungry.
Yes. No, we'll certainly arrange that. And actually, you want to see one picking? There's some robots doing some picking. And we still have humans, but quite a lot of these robots, so we're still learning.
Right.
They're slower than humans.
So no one is allowed in here?
No one is, you're absolutely right, no one is allowed in. What we're trying to do here is, we've got all this space, and if we could, this is vertical farming. Dyson engineers have developed this. And the idea is that it slowly rotates. So if you've got the sun, like a day like today, we can slowly rotate and give exactly the amount of sunlight to the strawberry plants. And then when there's no sun, we use infrared. The way we employ 240 people here. I tell you, we're a big employer, and we have 700 local suppliers dependent on us. So what we're doing is creating jobs, it is creating prosperity, and it's good for food security.
We can't just be a service-based economy. We need to make things, and I try to explain to people that That is where productivity comes from. It is from production, from producing, from making, growing, building, creating.
Governments have to take industry seriously and have to invest in it. I don't mean huge amounts of money. They have to care about it. We have 2,000 people at Malmesbury, plus the university. And some of the university students are really keen on farming. We have an anaerobic digester. And the original aim of the anaerobic digester, which you use crops to make gas, which turns a generator. And so we create electricity. And we supply 10,000 homes with electricity, green electricity. And then the gas goes through to drive what would have normally have been diesel engines. They're 24-cylinder diesel engines. We'll take you in and show you. And that creates 60% electricity to feed 10,000 homes and 40% waste heat, which is what we use to dry the grain and feed into a strawberry house.
So I've completely misunderstood the scale of what an anaerobic digester would be. I thought it would be something about this high, and then you poured the... No. I had no idea it was all of this.
It's like an oil refinery.
It is like an oil refinery. So if you were to give me a list of things that you think would encourage people to just take more risks, do more business, what would they be?
Well, firstly, reduce national insurance on employees, free up employee legislation, and particularly small businesses don't want to be burdened with legal actions on employees. It's crippling for a small business. You can't just buy a farm and farm. You've got to have this deep knowledge about farming, the weather and the soil and all that sort of thing. Why do you do it? You're doing it because you're creating something worthwhile. And by the way, the 20% is 40%.
How do you mean?
Because when I die, my children have to find 20% of the value of the business. So they have to take a dividend on which they're taxed. I don't understand why this government is attacking family businesses. They're not attacking public companies. They're not attacking private equity. They're not attacking foreign-owned family businesses. They're just attacking homegrown British family businesses. If you tax people so much and then there's no continuity in the business. I mean, private businesses are very good at doing things other than making profits.
Britain has some of the best engineers and innovators in the world. I care about this. I'm an engineer, and I'm here at Dyson Farming. What we need to see is more people setting up businesses like this, taking risks. But unfortunately, a lot of people are giving up on starting businesses because the government is in the way. We need government to get out of the way. We are the Conservative Party. We are the party of aspiration. We are the party of business. It's time for us to remember who we are. We need businesses to thrive. The Conservative Party I lead is the only party that gets that. We're the party of aspiration. We're the party of business. We are the party of economic growth.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Conservative Party Chairman, Kevin Hollenreich.
Good morning. Can I extend my deepest thanks to the incredible conference team at CCHQ. You are a pleasure to work with. Their dedication and hard work has clearly paid off because we've enjoyed a fantastic few days full of energy and inspiration. Thank you. Well done, team. A special thank you to the staff at Manchester Central and the Midland Hotel for looking after us so well, and to the Greater please. Good. And to the Greater Manchester Police, Fire Services, Ambulance Services and G4S for ensuring our safety throughout the event. Good. To our fringe organisers, sponsors and exhibitors, thank you. We could not do this without you. Thank you so much. And last, but by no means least, I want to thank the National Convention for the vital work they do in representing our members and volunteers, that is you, the true backbone of our party. Thank you. So now I'd like to invite Stuart Harper. It is my great pleasure, Stuart, if you'll join us on stage. Stuart Harper, who is President of the National Convention and the Conference Chairman, to present him, for a reason nobody seems to know quite why, with this bell. Stuart. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wonderful job. Can I say, Stuart, thank you for everything you have done to help make this an outstanding conference to remember. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you. Thank you.
Next year, we have a hugely important set of local elections, and it's more important than ever that we all get out on the stump, knock those doors, deliver those leaflets, and spread the Conservative message.
Matt, put the camera down. Go to number 10.
Okay. Hello, Mrs. Jones. Lovely to see you. Oh, now about these hugely important elections. In Scotland, we have the chance to end 19 years of SNP rule and their endless obsession with Scottish independence. We've got elections in Wales where Labour have been letting people down for decades. Mayors, like here in the Tees Valley, are delivering real results, more jobs, more opportunities and real change for local communities. Next year, more areas across the country will have the same opportunity. In London, Sadiq Khan has failed. We've got the chance to send him a clear message, to focus on the things that matter, like keeping our streets safe. And of course, there are thousands of council seats up for grabs, from Birmingham to Bolton, from Coventry to Calderdale. And we all know that Conservative councils deliver low council tax and better services. Next year's elections really matter, and this is why.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, Matt Vickers.
Good morning, Manchester. What a conference. What a croaky voice. What a party. We are the party of Churchill and Thatcher. We're the party of common sense and fiscal responsibility. And we have a huge job to do. When I was at school, my friends' heroes were Ryan Giggs and David Beckham. My hero was a bald, middle-aged man who was going to save the pound and had a very distinctive accent. Back then, after Blair swept to power with a whopping majority, they said it was over. And as time marched on and the Yellow team began snaffling up council seats and by-election wins, they said the Conservatives were done and that we'd never win again. But then, just like always, the Labour Party trashed our economy. They cost people their livelihoods and left nothing to the next generation other than a huge national debt. Every Labour government leaves unemployment higher than when they arrive, and Starmer's government are set to do it in record time. Unemployment up, taxes up, inflation up. The only growth is in the national debt. Whether it's in Downing Street or your local council, it's always the Conservatives that clear up Labour's mess, balance the books and treat taxpayers' money with the respect that it deserves. To every member of our party, every councillor, every PCC, mayor and activist, thank you. Having served as a councillor, I know the tireless and selfless work that you put in to improve your communities. You're the grafters who keep our country moving. Next year's elections really matter. So let me introduce our fantastic panel this morning. Firstly, one of the most capable, effective and glamorous police and crime commissioners around, delivering value for money for taxpayers while putting more police on our streets and cutting crime. The next Mayor of Sussex, Katie Bourne. She's a star. The voice, next up, secondly, the voice of Conservative councillors nationwide, constantly standing up for their cause and fighting their corner. The chairman of the Conservative Councillors Association, the man with the plan, John Cope. And last, but by no means least, the man who everyone said couldn't do it. They said he couldn't possibly win, but he smashed it and became our fantastic mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Bristow. To me, to you, we got there in the end. John, why are these elections so important?
I think the reason why these elections are so important is that Conservative councillors deliver. They are bloody brilliant. And thank you so much to all of you that came to the Conservative Council Association Awards conference. You saw there Conservative councillors who've had decades of experience serving their communities, saving their community centres, fighting for their areas, keeping council tax low. So I think we just need to remember, actually, we really genuinely do deliver. And what a contrast it is with our opponents. You know, I hope you've all seen in the press what's happening in Kent. You know, the Reform Party, they brought in Doge. What did Doge find? They found a well-run Conservative council. They found absolutely nothing. They've left off for a couple of months, and what did they leave? An announcement that Reform were about to raise council tax in Kent by 5%. You know, they took the voters for mugs, and I have no doubt the voters will pay their respects to them and kick them out as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Not only have we got those hugely important council elections next year, we're electing mayors, sometimes for the first time. Why are those elections so important?
Well, it's a huge job. A lot of people don't really understand what the mayor's going to do. So they're going to have 7 competency areas covering things like housing, transport, investment and inward investment and growing the economy, infrastructure and planning. You've got skills and training, health. They take on the role of the Police and Crime Commissioner. So those powers and responsibilities, fire and rescue services. I mean, it is a huge job and really, really important, as you just heard from John, that we have Conservatives in those positions because the budget as well is important and they will have those tax-raising capabilities, and we don't want that in the hands of opposition because we know what they do.
So, a man who knows something about mayors, Paul, what is it that mayors are able to achieve for their communities? What's the big difference, and why do people need to go out and vote Conservative?
Well, I remember a few weeks into the job, I was invited to the Cambridge Science and Technology Awards, and I went down to this area, and Cambridge is part of the patch I probably knew least well. But I went there, and I suddenly saw these young people that were doing extraordinary things. They were using AI in ways that I could never have imagined. You know, they were curing cancer. They were changing the world. And I stayed through the entire event because it quickly became clear to me, you know, I felt like I was the most stupid person in that room. Well, I probably was the most stupid person in that room. But what that kind of said to me is, look at the opportunity in Cambridge. It's internationally significant. It's the most intense science and technology hub in the world. And there are lots of people doing really, really, really well there. But I wanted to spread that to Peterborough and unleash the potential of that great city, the rest of the Fens. You know, we can do it. And whatever skills we have, or whatever capabilities we have, whether it's skills, whether it's transport, whether it's planning, whether it's infrastructure, as Katie said, you have to use those and focus around growth, because that's what we're there to do, to make people healthier, wealthier and happier. And just one last point as well. Personality matters in this job. You know, we've seen people like Andy Street in West Midlands when he was there, there as the mayor. People like Ben Houchin, they've really led the way. When I went around to Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, because that combined authority was set at the same time as Ben and as the West Midlands authority, but no one knew who the mayor was. I could wander around any village, any town, they didn't even know we had a mayor. Personality matters, because you can shape, you can convene, and you can drive growth.
And you know what? They said you wouldn't be able to do it. They said it wasn't going to happen for you. But what was the secret? How did we do it?
Well, you've got to get out early, and you've got to look like a winner. And you've got to have a clear plan. I had 5 points that I said intensely. We're going to dual RA roads, we're going to have faster trains, built light rail in Cambridge, we're going to build a Fens reservoir, and we're going to freeze the mayor's precept. And I said that again and again and again and again, and about the 64th time I've said it, you know, people began to take notice. It's not about national politics. You can frame the pitch and drive the agenda locally. There is almost 1 million homes in Cambridgeshire as well. You're not going to be able to knock and have a conversation with every single person on those doors. Social media counts as well, and having that message. I remember one person in Peterborough saying they were going to vote for me because they said, yes, Paul, you're a good MP, you've got lots of passion, but most of all, I just want you off my Facebook page. I'm sick of seeing you. So you've got to do that. You've got to go out there, look like a winner, frame the pitch, and we can do it. Think big or don't bother.
Yeah. Good message.
So it goes without saying that next year's elections are going to be tough. How, John, are we going to ensure that we get our fantastic Conservative councillors elected?
Well, we need to bottle a bit of the Bristow confidence, I think, right? You know, it has been a bruising few years for all of us in this hall, and thank you to everybody who has delivered those leaflets, shared those Facebook posts, knocked on those doors at the tough times. It's the most important time to do that, because if you abandon that, our opponents take advantage of it if we leave the field. So thank you for all of that. And there is no replacement for just knocking on doors, for taking and championing issues. You know, voters want to see us out there being confident in our values, our beliefs, what we can do for them, how we can make their lives better, and that we're picking campaigns and issues that really matter to them, we're running with it, and we're being genuinely their champion. And that means getting on leaflets, talking to them at the door, getting on Facebook, however annoying it is for people. I get exactly the same people. I get people in the street who come up to me and go, you're that guy on Facebook, aren't you? And I go, yeah, I'm really, really sorry. But, you know, if you can actually get in front of someone, and on paper, and on their social media, they know that you care, and they know that you're being their champion. But before May, we also have some other important elections. You'll have seen there are lots of local council by-elections that are happening up and down the country. Lots of them are reform councillors who didn't want to be councillors, who've caught up with the law, have done dreadful things, or have simply just abandoned their posts at the moment they have to take a difficult decision. So there's lots of resignations and people standing down. So I'm incredibly pleased to announce that from today, for the first time, there will be a dedicated by-election campaign fund run by the Conservative Councillors Association, £100,000 between now and May that will be available. So if you have a by-election in your area, get in touch with us and we'll be able to fund you, support you and give you the best chance of winning.
Thank you. Positive stuff, positive stuff. Katie, how are we going to make sure that you are the first mayor of Sussex?
Well, I'm really lucky. I'm a Sussex girl, born and bred. Sussex is the best county in the country. I make no apologies. 25% of all English sparkling wine now is grown in Sussex. And a few weeks ago, one of our vineyards topped the champagne world and created the best, even beat the French. So, you know, there are winners in Sussex. And I have an amazing team. We just heard about the councillors. We've got some fantastic councillors in Sussex, some great MPs. One's coming on next as well. And so it's an easy sell for me. You know, Sussex it's my home, it's beautiful. But you've just heard, we need to work hard. Politics is changing. It is very much moving to personality, whether that's a good or a bad thing. And you can't afford to be shy anymore. Yet we can't be shy Tories. We have to go out and knock on those doors. We have to have those conversations. People need a reason to vote for us now, more than ever. They need that hope. And we can give them that positive message. And as a great friend of mine always says, where we work, we win.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. What would our message, so obviously a rainbow of other options out there for people, what would our message be to people who are thinking of tinkering with the opposition? John?
Well, I've already spoken about Kent as a really good example, right, of if you protest and you just say, oh, voting doesn't matter and things like that, it has real, genuine consequences. And I think this is something that Andy Street did amazingly well in the West Midlands, where he made it very clear to people just how important these elections are. They're not a protest. It's not a game. You can't just say, oh, if I vote like this, I'm going to send a message to Keir Starmer. You're not. You know, it's the adult social care, it's your local schools, it's your local roads. It's really, really important things that councillors do, and it's not a protest. So I think, as Katie says, we have to explain to people on the doorstep, on social media, in leaflets, these elections matter. If you vote for me, this is how your life is going to improve. These are the services going to improve. And if you don't vote for me, this is what you're going to lose. So we just have to be really confident in what Conservatives can deliver, and then just communicate.
Any thoughts, Paul, on people thinking of doing the wrong thing at the ballot box?
Well, voting has consequences, doesn't it? You know, voting can influence your neighbourhood, your community, and, you know, a lot of the time we're not doing this for a laugh. We're doing this because we care about what we want to deliver. So, you know, I look at somewhere like Cambridge, which has been dominated for years by the left, by Liberals, by the Labour Party, by the Greens. There are actually some wards in Cambridge where they have a Green councillor, a Labour-ran city council, a Liberal Democrat-ran county council, and now, thankfully, a Conservative mayor. But people in that town, the people in that city are dying to hear a genuine Conservative voice. And it was the election of a Conservative councillor in a by-election in King's Hedges, probably one of the most the poorer parts of Cambridge, but we got a Conservative elected there, and it was the election of that councillor that prevented the congestion charge being put into Cambridge. So voting has consequences. A Conservative councillor in one of the poorest parts of Cambridge prevented a congestion charge being put in that city. It would have been a disaster.
Katie, thoughts on, you know, people who are thinking of doing the wrong thing?
I think this conference has been really exciting. I wasn't sure what to expect when I came, but we've got some great policies, the whole renewal programme. I genuinely feel that I've got my party back.
Yeah. Right.
We are now, we've always been the party of law and order, but I think we lost our way. I feel we're the party of law and order. We've got a plan to secure our borders. National security is safe. We've got a plan for business. We've always been the party that understands business drives the growth. You can't tax people and grow. You have to create the wealth, and the businesses create that wealth. They create that growth. And we are now the party of business as well. So I'm really excited. And the announcements that Shadow Chancellor made, we're the party of the economy. More than anything, we can be trusted with the economy once again. So I'm going to go home really hopeful after this conference, and I hope everybody out there does too. I look forward to seeing you all in Sussex. If you want to come down and campaign next May, you'll be very, very welcome.
Very, very good. So often, we talked a bit about social media, we talked about the digital age and campaigning in the new world. Some of us are better at it than others. Some of us struggle to get our heads around it. We've got people who've never had to use it before. Any big lessons and takeaways from social media? Didn't you have a viral video of you splitting the G. That was like the... What is it that makes the social media punchy? What is it that's going to help us make the most use of it?
You know, you've got to lean into it. You've got to embrace it. You've got to show a bit of personality. And yeah, I like a pint of Guinness, so why not showing people, show the great people of Cambridge and Peterborough me drinking a pint of Guinness. I got thrown out of the Labour Party conference last week, didn't I? We did a video on that. That was a lot of fun. And I got lots of views on that. But, you know, when you're fighting for the Cambridge and Peterborough, if the Labour Party are going to throw you out of their conference, it's clear they don't want to listen to the message, do they? They don't want people fighting for their communities. But you've got to show a bit of personality. You can't be shy. A video just using your iPhone as you're walking along, saying your thoughts, these are good things. And do you know something? People will say things on social media or reply on social media in ways that they would never do face-to-face. It's difficult sometimes, but don't take it personally. You've got to go out there and sell your message. And there are new ways of doing it, innovative ways of doing it. We either embrace it or we'll suffer the consequences. But, you know, we can do it. And you, Matt, I mean, your social media is amazing as well.
Cheesy and cheesier the better. Wait, how many times did it take for you to successfully split the G?
First time. One time wonder.
So for all these councillors out there who are a bit unsure, John, how they're going to get their head around this social media and how it all works, and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and whatever else, where's it at?
Firstly, get in touch with us. We'll help you, right? It can be scary, and you're right, you can get some abuse, and you've got to keep in mind that for the 1 or 2 negative comments, there's probably about 1,000 people have seen it, they haven't engaged, but they've gone, yeah, he's a pretty decent guy. You drink Guinness well. Etc. But also, you know, I think not only is it about personality, it's about authenticity. You know, it's not a Matt Vickers video, right? If it doesn't start with you doing this, and it's being authentic to yourself. So if you are, you know, a Matt Vickers type that can shout at the camera and be really excited and stuff like that, go for it. If you're quiet, you're more reserved, that's fine. You know, you just got to be authentic. So don't do anything that feels uncomfortable, that feels weird. Be authentic, and just pick an issue that your voters, your residents really care about. And if they see you talking about that issue and doing something about it, and no one else is, even if they're not a Conservative, they'll go, he's a nice guy, and they'll open, and then when they see a leaflet from you, or they get a knock on the door from you, they always think he's a nice guy, and that's half the battle.
Very, very good.
So I'm going to give a shout out today for our YCs, our young Conservatives. Give us a cheer, guys. They're all here. Hooray! We've had... And the reason I'm doing that is we've had more of them here at this conference than at any time before, and they are absolutely fizzing with ideas. These are the guys that are digitally savvy. They understand it like you and I understand how to breathe. And if you're a councillor out there, you have no excuse not to engage on social media, because the YCs are huge now in every association. There's more and more coming. You ask them. They're there. They will help you. They are really excited and keen and engaged. Give them that task, and they will teach you. And there's nothing like the younger generation teaching the old dog a few new tricks.
I mean, we said about the party law and order, we said about the party of the economy. Actually, we're the party of the young people this week.
We are.
We've got that £5,000 rebate on housing. We're saving the Great British Pub. What more can people want? I think I heard a really good story from a councillor this week. Doc Anand, I don't know if he's here, Newcastle Council, the first guy in 30-some years to take a council seat in Newcastle. And he had a method of, basically, if a pothole had been there a year, he took it a birthday cake, filmed it, slapped it up on social media, and that innovative, inventive, try it once. Well, they say try anything once and the good things twice. When it comes to social media, give it a go. Try something new.
Absolutely.
If you had one message for our fantastic council candidates next year, one tip, one hint about how they're going to smash it and win, what would it be, Paul?
You can win. Believe in yourself. If not you, then who? Don't let the electorate think, you know, woe is me. You can do it. And if other people think you can win, you will win.
Yeah. John?
The way I would put it is that politics is remarkably simple, just incredibly hard work. And actually, winning campaigns is really, really simple when you think about it. If you just knock on doors, talk to people, it's free. It's just your time you're using. So my advice to you is don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. Just be yourself. Build a team, get some people around you, and just get knocking on doors and talking to people about the issues that matter in your community, and you will have a best chance possible.
Good.
So whether it's a physical door or a digital door, knock on it. Don't be a shy Tory. It's time to buy a Tory. You've got a great message to sell. Go out and sell it.
Well,
So, exciting week had at conference. We've got lots of policy announcements. What do we think is the biggest deal this week? What is the one thing you need to make sure that people back at home have heard in order to up our electoral chances in Mayor?
well, for me, Matt, I think the best thing I'm able to sell on the doorstep is that business rates cut for, on high streets. Okay, so I always kind of tell the story. So John Lewis closed in Peterborough, which was obviously very, very disappointing. And people used to kind of wander into Peterborough city centre. They would have a look around John Lewis. They may have a drink. Then they'd go home and they'd order it online. And there are things like this which are making our high street suffer. We've got to make it more of a destination for people for leisure and for tourism and for hospitality as well as retail. I think that this policy can really drive that, save our high streets and save our town centres and make them places that people want to go to again.
John?
Well, I'm really proud that we are the only party that's talking about the economy.
Yeah.
You look at the other parties, the only reason the Labour Party talks about it is to apologise for the damage they're doing. Reform only talk about it, they're promising massive increases in spending and at the same time promising massive cuts in taxes, low tax, big state. We're the only ones that have actually grappled with the fact you've got to pay for things, you've got to have a plan, and in the way you pay for things, you deliver a plan is a strong economy. So for me, like the fact that we're sat here surrounded by a stronger economy and talking about it, we're the only party that's doing it. And that, for me, creates that really clear blue water that defines us, that makes us different to every other party, and that hasn't always been the case over the last year of that difference. So I'm really proud of it.
It's a national message, it's a local message. If you want your council tax to be spent properly...
And it's a uniquely Conservative message.
It is, absolutely. I'd echo what Paul said, definitely the business rates, because the hospitality sector is huge in Sussex. We've got 110 miles plus of coastline, so there's a lot of hospitality there with trade and everything. And I know I can go out and it's going to be an easy sell, that one. I've already been contacted by a few businesses while I've been here to talk further. So I'm really excited, and we should feel energised, as you heard John say. The economy, we're the sensible ones, and I genuinely feel that I've got my party back.
Very good. Go on, that's perfect. So one of the things that we've done at Party Conference, as well as sending our message to the world, we've celebrated some of the successes and the achievements and things that Conservatives managed to deliver in office. John, on the spot, any examples of fantastic things that Conservative councillors have done? You were judging all these wonderful awards. Any that stand out that you think something to be learned?
It's a very, very good question. You're now trying to make me pick between all the different winners of the awards.
I'll let you have two if you want.
Yeah, indeed. No, I think the most impressive thing about Conservative councillors, and it was the example that I gave earlier with Kent, right, is that they just get on with it. All the other parties sort of do press releases, I have to fight the Liberal Democrats, right? They just, every single one of them just turns up, points at something, has a photo, puts it on their leaflet and goes home. They don't actually do any work. They just try and take the credit for it. And what we saw at the Conservative Council Association Awards was people who actually are unsung heroes. Our Lifetime Achievement Award was somebody who'd been a councillor, I think, for 40 years. The runners-up, if you had them all together, we had a century of public service, like, just there in front of us. And they weren't doing all of the glossy PR, they weren't doing all of that, they were just helping their community. So I realise it's a boring answer, but it's actually what works with people. They don't want to see, people squatting, pointing at potholes and things like that. They actually want the pothole filled and fixed. And Doc and And, as you mentioned earlier, he actually got them fixed and done it. So let's carry on just being the sensible people, getting things fixed, getting things done, and let all the other parties do their silly leaflets.
There you have it. The people who get things done, the people who keep your council tax down and deliver better services, get out there on the stump with us. We need your help between now and May. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We feed Wales, but Welsh Labour's farming scheme and government tax rises are putting us out of business.
School discipline in Wales is at an all-time low and attendance levels are appalling. The Welsh Labour government are not listening to teachers.
A tourism tax, jobs tax and business rates, it is as though they're trying to push Welsh businesses under.
Childcare is so expensive in Wales to the point where it's completely unaffordable. I just don't understand why families in Wales aren't supported in the same way that families in England are.
Unemployment is up, inflation is up, debt is up, the economy is failing under Labour and young people like me are paying the price for it.
We don't want 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, and we don't want money wasted on tree planting in Uganda or 120 million on more politicians. We just want politicians with the guts to stand up and fix Wales.
Our roads are in an awful state. Year after year, the SNP funding of our roads has left them littered with potholes. We've got plans to fix the roads so drivers can get around more easily and affordably.
Under the SNP, NHS waiting times are far too high. In order to bring them down, the Scottish Conservatives would invest in frontline and stop all the wasted money in bureaucracy.
Our schools have slid down international league tables on the SNP's watch. We would restore Scottish education by cracking down on poor behaviour in the classroom and once again restoring knowledge to the Scottish curriculum.
Scots workers are paying more in tax than those who do the same job in the rest of the UK. That's unfair and it needs to change, and that's why the Scottish Conservatives are campaigning to reduce tax so that ordinary hard-working Scots can keep more of their own money.
The union of our United Kingdom, the union of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, is the most important thing we have. It allows Northern Ireland to punch way above its weight and is something we need to maintain and strengthen. And to that end, I am proud of the fact that the Conservative and Unionist Party exists in Northern Ireland, offering voters a choice of a national mainstream party.
The Conservative Party has been an integral part of what it means to be British, probably the most successful political party in history over the years, and it has stood for family values, it has stood for encouraging enterprise, reliance and care for others.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Camilla Tominey, Mims Davis, Andrew Bowie and Alex Burgard.
Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you appreciate that we're all suitably dressed in red, white and blue, because we're going to have a debate in these flag-waving times about the future of the Union, the future of Great Britain. And so to kick off, do we need to worry about the future of the Union now that we can no longer see Nicola Sturgeon for the dust trail left by her estranged husband's camper van? Should we begin with you, Mims?
Well, how do you follow that? I mean, goodness gracious. Look, I don't think we can take anything for granted when it comes to the Union. Flag waving is very important. We love it. I'm not going to pick them up. They look a bit heavy. But what I would say is we are the Conservative and Unionist Party, and we are the only people protecting the Union. And it is precious, and we can't take it for granted.
Yeah, we absolutely do. You know, you could write the playbook for the Scottish National Party strategy in next May's Holyrood election today. They'll go into that election promising people in Scotland that a vote for the SNP isn't a vote for independence. They're not campaigning for another referendum. And as soon as John Swinney passes through the threshold of Butte House, he will be agitating for another referendum on breaking up the country. And time again, the Scottish Conservatives and actually the UK Conservatives have demonstrated we're the only party willing and with the energy and the capability and the resolve to stop the SNP juggernaut and campaign to maintain Scotland's place in our wider United Kingdom. I think Scotland is far better off for being in the UK, and I frankly think the UK is far better off for having Scotland in it.
Alex.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we do have to be worried because Labour's in power.
Yeah.
And I deep down, I just don't know how much Labour really care about the Union. And you know, I think that we often see that their tendency is to try and just put more and more powers out of Westminster into the devolved areas. And so I do doubt their commitment. And I think it's going to stand to our party to make sure that we're the ones giving the robust defence of this incredibly important union of nations.
Well, to what extent do you think devolution has failed? There's a lot of Margaret Thatcher memorabilia around because it's the 100th anniversary of her birth. I mean, what would she make of devolution, Mims?
Yeah, well, I'll jump in if I may. Look, we've got the fight of our life on in Wales, and we're up for that fight. But let's be honest around why Margaret Thatcher is so revered. And it's not about the great outfits and it's not about the 100 years. All of that's important. But she was the woman who said that we need to roll back the frontiers of the state. What Tony Blair and the devolution settlement has done is devolved. We have forgotten about outcomes. And what we need to do is roll back the frontiers of those devolved areas. Wanton spending when it comes to Wales, you know, hundreds of millions going over the next few years in more politicians that nobody wants, propping up Cardiff Airport, wanton spending on deconstructing a Welsh cake. But everybody knows somebody who's waiting in pain and in vain in Wales because of the NHS, which is being devolved. Stephen Kinnock is intervening when it comes to England, but Labour will not look at Wales. The scandals in the Betws-Coed Hospital Trust. We need to be the party, and we heard those voices. It's not about nations, it's about people in those nations who are being forgotten, and we need to stand up for them.
But just on that subject, just to come in on Wales specifically, because of course the failures that have been orchestrated by Labour in Wales are well documented, and yet at the same time, you know, Reform is the party that is being tipped to do very well at the Welsh elections next year. So there's also been a failure of Conservatism to appeal to disaffected Welsh voters.
Yeah, well, let's take this on. The fabled 2 Labour governments, which are going to be so life-changing for the people of Wales. Absolutely not. When it comes to this populist party, which is populist, socialist, capitalist, according to whoever they speak to, I call him Nigel Farage. He is selling absolutely something that don't buy it because he doesn't care. He wants to tread on the heads of the people of Wales to get to Westminster, and it's our job to stop him.
Yeah.
A similar criticism may be made of lesser spotted Scottish Conservatives, Andrew.
Well, we might be lesser spotted, but we make our presence felt when we are. It's, the fact is, Labour campaigned for devolution, for the creation of a Scottish Parliament, promising the Scottish people that it would kill nationalism stone dead. Well, we've seen how well that turned out. But the fact is that I don't believe devolution has failed. I believe what is failing the people of Scotland and the people of Wales has been the socialist blob mindset that every single government of Scotland since the creation of the Scottish Parliament in 1999 has been imbibed with. We've had a combination of Labour, Liberal Democrat, and then for the last 17 dreadful years, Scottish National Party governance in Scotland. That's what's letting down the people of Scotland. And what we've seen, actually, is local communities, local authorities, local people being stripped of their powers and their ability to determine the life chances and the opportunities for their area, and a concentration of power at Holyrood and in Edinburgh, a growing blob, a civil service out of control in terms of the numbers of people now serving the Scottish Government. And we want to see, the Scottish Conservatives want to see real devolution down to local communities, down back to local authorities in Scotland, because we believe that local people are best placed to determine what the best interests of their own communities, not more SNP politicians in Holyrood.
Yeah.
Alex, what's the dynamics now of the Northern Ireland situation? I think the public gained a greater understanding of the politics there during Brexit. Again, there's the Farage dimension to take into account when it comes to Northern Ireland politics. What's your analysis?
Well, if it's all right, Camilla, I'll come to that in a moment. I just want to build on what Andrew was saying, because obviously it would unquestionably be better for everyone if the Scottish Conservatives were in power in Scotland.
Yeah. Bring it on.
But your first question, Camilla, was about what would Margaret Thatcher say? And the great lady famously would say, starting cabinet meetings with, well, let's start with the facts. And the facts are these: that a quarter of a century after the Blairite settlement in Wales and Scotland, and none of the things that the people of Wales and Scotland were promised would have happened. The economy in these areas has not fulfilled its enormous potential. The state of health in Wales is shocking. Yeah. The state of education in Scotland is unacceptable. And devolution is palpably failing people in those areas. And we have to start with those facts. Now, where that conversation takes us is a very interesting direction. But we have to be the party that's prepared to stand up and say what's actually in the minds of people in Wales and Scotland, that this system isn't working as it was promised in 1998.
And we're the only party saying that. We're the only party offering a radical positive vision for how to do governance differently in Wales and in Scotland. Even reform are supportive of full fiscal autonomy to the Scottish Parliament. We are the only party saying, no, you know what, no more devolution. We're going to address the real concerns of the Scottish people. So when we go into Holyrood elections next May, we will be the only party campaigning to lower taxes. Because if you earn over £30,000 in Scotland, you are paying higher tax than anywhere else in the United Kingdom. We're going to be pro-business, we're going to be pro-growth, and we're going to be pro-local communities. The only party offering that to the Scottish people. And I think that's a credible offer, and I think the Scottish people will respond positively.
Yeah, I think you saw that with Darren and Russell on Sunday when setting the scene with Kemi about the commitment locally and the fact that in Wales we're the only party that doesn't just want more politicians and more power. We actually want outcomes, and using the Wales Act properly to cut income tax as well, to protect our farmers, to deliver the transport schemes such as the M4, upgrade the rails, and actually properly turn education around. The failings in Wales are an absolute disgrace. Labour are dead in Wales for a reason, and they should be, because they failed a generation and then some, and we're going to be offering academies and free schools for the first time ever. So we need to get out on those doorsteps and fight for every single vote, because we've got a changed system in the Senedd, which means that every Conservative vote will deliver somebody who's delivering exactly what Andrew said, which is a pro-growth, pro-economy, pro-opportunity agenda. And this is so vital because they've been overlooked and left behind. It's so good that we can talk as a Conservative and Unionist Party about this morning. But the economy, the hospitality sector, we're the only people that are going to sort out business rates. We're the only people that understand that hospitality really matters as well. And on top of that, the tourism tax looming on this is completely wrong, alongside the farming tax. It's just tax, tax, tax. No outcomes for people being overlooked. And we have to use these big set of elections, not as some kind of midterms, actually about how these parliaments are held to account.
Absolutely. We'll get on. Important point of clarity. Important point of clarification. We do want more Conservative politicians. Just to be absolutely clear.
True. You'd hope so. Before we get on to the budget that we've just had and the budget that we're going to have on November the 26th, just to reiterate that question, just Alex, about the post-Brexit picture in Northern Ireland, some will raise concerns about Kemi Badenoch's plans for the ECHR, her borders plan for immigration, and its effect on the Good Friday Agreement.
Yes, so obviously one of the major announcements that we've made at conference is that the next Conservative government will take us out of the European Convention on Human Rights. And but nowhere is this more sensitive an issue than in Northern Ireland, where part of the backdrop to the peace process was an element within the convention. And that's why it's so important that it's been the Conservative Party that has done the most detailed analysis that anybody, anywhere has undertaken. This extraordinary 200-page report by David Wolfson, which shows that it is possible to be committed to the peace process, it is possible to adhere to the 1998 agreement, and still, for the whole of the United Kingdom, to leave the European Convention. And if Kemi hadn't asked David Wolfson to do that report, we wouldn't be in possession of those facts. But it's incredibly important because it shows that the whole country can leave without us disrupting that important agreement from 1998.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, and we're the only party that is going to continue to stand up for veterans.
Yes,
it's disgraceful,
exactly right.
Disgraceful what's happening to our veterans.
That's right. And that's, as you say, that is something that has resonance throughout the whole of the United Kingdom. And it's something that all of the other parties have really been too weak to put their names to.
Either too weak or they don't understand.
Let's talk about the budget then, because the effect on the farming tax has particularly badly affected people in the four corners of the UK. What can be done about that, Alex? What proposals are the Conservatives going to come forward to persuade people in rural farming communities that their interests are protected?
Well, first and foremost, that Kemi was straight out of the blocks when that dreadful announcement was made, to say we will scrap it. We will scrap the family farms tax, and that that has resonance throughout throughout all corners of the country. You go and visit farmers in Northern Ireland, where the price of agricultural land is higher than in the rest of the UK, and they're furious. They're livid. I've met people whose families have farmed the same piece of land for 350, 400 years. And they're looking at having that legacy destroyed by this dreadful socialist government. It's the Conservatives that have been standing up for farming interests in all parts of our country.
Yeah. No, what he said. And the anger is palpable out there. I met with farmers in the northeast of Scotland just a couple of weeks ago when they were sending their trailer of truth down to the Labour conference in Liverpool. Only the Conservatives have been clear from the very outset just how devastating this tax will be to our farming communities. Only the Conservatives are actually standing up because we do understand and actually care about the future of our agricultural sector in the United Kingdom. The SNP pretend to, but I think if you ask farmers in Scotland, the SNP's record on farming since they got into power, it's not one that they should be very proud of. The Liberals are doing it because it's yet another bandwagon that's rolling past. But we actually work with, speak to, live alongside and engage with farmers on a day-to-day basis in most of our constituencies. So we know how damaging this is going to be. We know how much farmers in this country contribute. And this regressive ideological, it cannot be overstated just how much damage this is going to do to farming in the United Kingdom. It's absolutely terrifying. And the simple fact of the matter, just in the same way that this Labour government don't understand what their oil and gas policies are doing to our energy security, don't want to, they don't care. They simply do not care. Well, we care, we always will, and we'll stand by our farmers until we can overturn this appalling tax.
Let's lean into that a little more, because Kemi Badenoch's also announced that she wants to tear up the Climate Change Act, that she wants to dispense with that net zero target, which presumably will have a positive effect for those working in the North Sea on oil and gas. Where should the Conservatives position themselves in relation to those people, not least because, of course, union members are agitating for Labour and Ed Miliband to water down some of their own policies?
Yeah, look, we don't have enough time to go into what I would like to do to save the oil and gas sector, or the long list that I have in terms of being critical of what Ed Miliband is doing. It is actually horrific. It is terrifying. When you see the rate of decline in that industry, when you look at the forecasts for unemployment in Aberdeen and around the northeast of Scotland, they're talking about a Grangemouth-size event every 2 weeks. That's 1,000 job losses every 2 weeks. I had constituents come to me saying, why are our jobs worth less than a job at British Steel? Because that's how they feel. And the fact of the matter is, it is, of course, about jobs. And in my constituency, that's especially true. But it's actually about our energy security. And it's utterly perverse. It's absolutely insane. It's unhinged, the policy we have right now. A tax rate of 78% and a ban on licenses and exploration, leading us to a point where we're having to import more of the gas that we use, import more from Norway, who are drilling it from the very same sea that we are being prevented from doing by Ed Miliband. We need to stop this. It is utter madness in the name of eco-zealotry and one man's messianic drive to be the man that stopped the fossil fuel industry in its tracks in this country, and that man is Ed Miliband. We need to get rid of Ed Miliband, and we need to get rid of the energy profits levy. We need to get rid of the 78% tax rate on that industry. We need to overturn the ban on exploration and licensing. We need to overturn the Climate Change Act. We need to get rid of the Climate Change Committee. We need to do everything that's preventing this country from growing, creating the jobs and generating the revenue that we desperately need if we're going to move forward. The deindustrialisation we are seeing in this country would not be... we are a shining light of how not to decarbonise. If a country in the world wants to look at how not to do it, look at the United Kingdom right now, and only the Conservatives... only the Conservatives have planned to overturn that.
Well, let's talk about deindustrialisation, again, just with the spectre of the great lady, the Iron Lady in our minds. I mean, there are many in Wales that refused to vote for the Conservatives because they feel that their mining towns were left behind, that no industry came in to replace them. You've now got your chief opponent, Nigel Farage, channeling his inner J.D. Vance, talking about reindustrialising. What's your offer to those Welsh people for whom the idea of voting Conservative is a dirty word?
Well, Kemi was the woman that saved Tata Steel, that gave the future of the electric arc furnaces. So we know exactly that. But I think the issue around the fact that skills are devolved in Wales, but long-term unemployment isn't. And that means for the people of Wales, that's a challenge. And ultimately, we need to be holding the Senedd to account on that. As Andrew said, all of these are people, jobs and livelihoods and security. And there's no security if you haven't got a job. So a place-based solution, and that's why I'm delighted about some of the announcements, which I think will connect with the people of Wales. Ironically, one of the hardest places to buy a house and start a life in Wales under the last 25 years plus of Labour is because of their policies. So we've got to get over this perception that we can't reach communities because of perceived history. Many people, when you talk to people about the values of the Conservative Party and get over the past and look to the future, and that's what we're doing at the moment as a party, renewing, pushing really hard to be heard. It is about offering a job, any job, better job, career. That's what we believe in as Conservatives.
Absolutely, and that's the key point about the energy debate. Because if you believe in a more sustainable future, and frankly we all want to see a cleaner environment for our children and their children, we're going to need the skill set and the skilled workers that currently are employed in our oil and gas industry. And if they're laid off in the United Kingdom, they're going to go to Saudi Arabia, to Dubai, to Australia, elsewhere in the Middle East, to the Far East, to Mexico, to the USA, to Canada, frankly anywhere in the world where Ed Miliband is not in charge of energy policy, because they actually believe in energy security. So we need to arrest this decline, and it is about the school days.
Andrew, can you get off the fence when it comes to
I'm
not sure we know where you stand.
Nobody was talking about Dubai until Labour came in. They might have talked about Dubai chocolate, but they weren't leaving their lives and homes.
Richard Tice was talking about Dubai.
Well, but that's the point. This is the future that Labour has offered, and let's not forget the Lib Dems, the Labour enablers. They do it in Parliament all the time. They've done it in the Senedd to get the budget through. They are the ragwort of British politics. When we go back to, let's pull them up, pull them out, get them out, because we can't get back in without getting rid of them.
We've got a few minutes left, Alex. Shall we have a conversation about flag waving, as it seems to be in vogue at the moment?
Okay.
We've had a debate started by Gary Neville, the footballer, suggesting that he finds the Union flag something associated with old white men. Oh, there's booze. I don't know where Andrew Bowie is on Gary Neville, if his feelings are as strong about Gary Neville as
You don't have time. You don't have time.
But Alex, when it comes to flying the flag, both sort of for the English, Scottish, Northern Ireland and Welsh, but equally for the British, has this debate sort of spiralled out of control?
Of course, I mean, of course it has. Look, the vast majority of people in our country are proud of the flag. They see it as a sign of unity, they see it as a sign of our history, of our culture. They're not ashamed by it, they're proud of it. And there's a small group of left-wing, wrong-headed people who are embarrassed by it, embarrassed by our culture, by our history, and they want to sideline it. And one of the most interesting things I've done this year was I went to Northern Ireland during the marching season, which was brilliant. I mean, one of the most wonderful days out you can imagine. Families lining the streets, and just this sort of huge tide of flag waving in the most warm-spirited way. And look, as I say, the vast majority of people throughout our country see the Union Jack as a great thing, and we mustn't let a small number of detractors take away from that in any way.
I think it's deeply offensive. I think it's deeply offensive what Gary Neville said about the Union flag. This is a flag that people have fought and died for. And has been a symbol of inspiration to people around the world for centuries. It stands for freedom, opportunity, hope and strength, and we should always defend it. And people want to wave the flag, crack on, wave the flag.
I mean, it's been a curious development that it's been okay to be a Scottish nationalist or a Welsh nationalist, but not an English nationalist, and a degree of negativity surrounded by the St George's flag.
Let's be completely honest on this. It's okay if you're a sports person when it suits you, apparently, Gary. But you cannot be just Prime Minister of England. You are the Prime Minister of our great, great nations. And if we are going to come back as a force, which we're all working very hard on, get back on the doors, folks, because this is really important to have this actual conversation about flags and why we should be positive as in England as we are in Wales or anywhere else. And no one ever, when there's a royal visit, for example, says, oh, I mustn't wave my flag. I mean, come on. But you cannot be the Prime Minister of this great nation without winning in Wales, winning in Scotland, having a strong Conservative Party in Northern Ireland, and winning England. So let's be completely honest about why we see it so important as this party as well, because a stronger economy is only when all of our great nations work together, our internal market works together, and we come together. Look at our spirit during the Olympics. You know, that is all under our flag and under our banners. So let's be proud of it, whether you're in England, Ireland, Northern Ireland, wherever you want to be. Just enjoy being British, because we're proud of it, and we should absolutely make sure everybody knows that we as the Conservative and Unionist Party are very, very proud to represent them in whatever part of our corner of our nations we stand in.
Well, on that very patriotic note, I think we shall leave it there. We've been the warm-up act for the big speech in about 15 minutes' time. So Alex Burkhardt, Andrew Bowie, Mims Davis, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
for joining
Camilla.
us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem.
The Conservative Party is under new leadership. From now on, we are going to be telling the British people the truth, even when it is difficult to hear. Fulfilling the role the British people gave us. Fighting for common sense and truth. Building a plan which actually delivers. We have to know what we are winning for and what we are going to do after we win. Building a proper plan. Fighting for ordinary people, for the institution of the family, for business, for common sense, for less tax, less state and less interference. We are facing an economic crisis. There is only one party that has the experience and the plan to get us out of the mess we're in. He doesn't have the balls. If he had a backbone, he would sack her. Be a leader, not a lawyer. No politician alone can build lasting prosperity. That comes from business, from innovation, from risk takers and job creators. It comes from you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you. Thank you, conference. Only the Conservative Party can deliver the stronger economy and stronger borders that will give people a more prosperous future. Every generation must face its test. In the 1940s, our test was to defeat fascism and ensure the victory of freedom. In the 1980s, it was to banish socialism and deliver prosperity. And in the 2020s, our test is to restore a strong economy, secure our borders, and rebuild Britain's strength so our children inherit a country that works. Ladies and gentlemen, conference, thank you. Thank you for standing by the only party that can meet the test of our generation. The only party that can deliver a stronger economy and stronger borders. Everything else relies on getting this right. National security, order on the streets, decent healthcare, high-quality education, cohesion in our communities. None of this exists without a strong economy and strong borders. A weak economy makes us poorer. The services we rely on get worse, and people cannot build a better life for themselves or their families. Weak borders allow people to exploit our generosity, put our housing and public services under pressure, and fracture our sense of who we are as a nation. A weak economy and weak borders means steady decline. I reject that fate. Together, we Conservatives will save Britain from that fate. And we can do it together because we are a strong team. My fantastic shadow cabinet, Mel, Chris, Claire, Laura, Rob, Andrew, both of them, James, both of them, Mims, Jessie Stewart, all of you, thank you. Thank you so much. My front bench, experienced hands and rising stars, conference, we know our MPs and peers have more collective wisdom than the rest of Parliament put together. And it's not just them. Let's not forget Darren and our MSs in Wales, Russells, and our MSPs in Scotland, our fantastic mayors. Labour beater, Ben Houchin, Reform slayer, Paul Bristow, councillors, activists, you are our party, thank you. I joined our party as an activist 20 years ago. I was with you delivering leaflets, knocking on doors. I sat in this hall listening to speeches. I celebrated all our wins, and I felt the pain of every defeat. I cannot tell you now how honoured, how privileged, and how proud I am to stand before you as leader of our party, leader of the Conservative Party, the only party that can meet the test of our generation. And you are more than just a political party to me. You have supported me, you have stood by me, you have enabled me to achieve more than I ever dreamed. You are my family, in many ways, quite literally. I married the deputy chairman of my association, and I certainly would not be standing here today without my husband, Hamish. Thank you, Hal. I love this party for what it has given me. But more than that, I love it because it has made life better for so many in our country and will do so again. Time and time again, guided by our values and our principles, we have steered this country through its darkest days. And today, we must be ready to do the same again. Because we are the only party that has the vision, the courage, and the competence to tear up a broken political model, deliver a new blueprint for our country, and together take Britain into an era of prosperity and security. To do this conference, we must be frank about the problems our country faces, because they are not the same ones that we faced in the 1940s or the 1980s or even the 2010s. The country that Hamish and I were born in had its issues, but thanks in large part to hard choices taken by this party, opportunity was there for people who worked hard. People had a sense of pride in our national story and excitement about the future. I'm not so sure young people feel that way anymore. They feel they are living somewhere where things never get any better. Britain is stagnating while the world around us moves on. We are competing with restless and ambitious countries around the world. We are competing with 1 billion people in India striving to become middle class. We are competing with economic success stories like Poland. 15 years ago, Polish workers came here to find opportunity. Now, Poland is growing twice as fast as we are. While Britain was redefining what a woman is, China was building 5 nuclear reactors. People around the world are determined to lift their lives and their children's lives up to a standard that we have taken for granted. Some countries won't be able to do this, and in those countries, millions of people will decide that they want to come here instead. And if our borders are not secure, they will succeed, especially if our economy is addicted to migration. Of course, we want brilliant minds and great talents to come here, but at the moment, we are not just taking in doctors and engineers and scientists. We are accepting hundreds of thousands of people, some with many dependents, some with no skills at all. This broken immigration model is heaping pressure on our public sector, a public sector which already, every year, demands more and more and more of our money. Yet services don't get better, they get worse. Everyone in this room knows what I'm talking about. We have all felt it. We used to ring up our GP and get an appointment the same day. Now we have to wait on the phone to see if we're one of the lucky ones. We have potholes that have been around for so long, people are holding birthday parties for them. But underneath all of this is a society which is struggling to cope with the reality of getting poorer, struggling to cope with the erosion of a sense of who we are as a country. We cannot drift our way into solving these problems. We know what drift looks like. It looks like allowing the trade unions to overturn years of progress in school standards. It looks like letting our veterans face vexatious prosecutions when we should be worrying about the strength of our military. Drift looks like Labour's one-in, one-out returns deal with France that ends up letting 100 people in for every one who leaves. Being timid will get us nowhere. We need bold ideas. We need a positive vision for this country and a plan to deliver it. We need a new approach that delivers a stronger economy and stronger borders. We owe that to our children. During our time in government, we did great things. Labour want to pretend the last 14 years were all bad. They want to forget that they were losing all that time. Let's remind them. Between 2010 and 2020, we slashed the deficit. We lifted millions of people out of tax and got millions into work. We sent English schools soaring up the international league tables. We led the coalition against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The conference, the truth is, we didn't always fight hard enough for what we believed in. We need to remember who we are fighting for. We are fighting for people who work hard and do the right thing. We are fighting for people who ask, why do sickness benefits pay more than the minimum wage, more than the living wage even? We are fighting for small business owners, people who take risks and get things done. We We are fighting for the victims of crime. They want to know that we are on their side, that criminals will face the full force of the law. We are fighting for the farmers, putting food on our tables. These are our people, Conference. They are the backbone of our country. We fought for them before, and we will fight for them again. Conference, time and time again, we have been the only party that is bold enough to do what is needed, the only party that is competent enough to do it properly. We were bold enough to create the modern police force, to introduce free state education for every child. We were radical enough to launch the right to buy, to free the workplace from the dead hand of the state, to give working men the vote, and better late than never, women too. We were courageous enough to introduce same-sex marriage. And, of course, we were brave enough to take Britain out of the European Union, honouring the biggest democratic mandate in our history. All Conservative achievements. Yes, all of that was us. But enough about past glories. Actually, how about one more? Conference, do you know the one thing we Conservatives have done the most throughout our history? Clear up the mess left by Labour. And my goodness, they are making one hell of a mess. Never in the field of human history have so many been let down by so few. All they have delivered is a doom loop of higher taxes, weaker borders, and month after month of chaos. They had a plan to win, but no plan for power, no vision for Britain. They know how to make promises, but not how to deliver them. This year, the Prime Minister was asked to name his best moment in office. Do you know what he said? Walking into Downing Street. For once, I agree with him. It's been downhill all the way since. What have Labour given us? An anti-corruption minister under investigation for corruption, a homelessness minister who made her own tenants homeless, a housing secretary sacked for dodging housing taxes. You couldn't make this stuff up. We had a transport secretary fired for stealing a phone, and our ambassador in Washington thrown out in disgrace. There is an old joke that a diplomat is someone sent abroad to lie for their country. Well, at least in Peter Mandelson, they had a man of experience. Just look at the spectacle we saw in Liverpool last week. Minister after minister failing to rule out the tax rises we all know are coming. The Mayor of Manchester touting his own manifesto for the country. But to be honest, I can't blame Andy Burnham for that one. Who doesn't want to get rid of this utterly useless, weak Prime Minister? After 5 years as Labour leader, people still don't know what Keir Starmer stands for. And you know what the real problem is? He doesn't know himself. Today we learn that Labour deliberately collapsed the trial of 2 men accused of spying on MPs for China because the Prime Minister wants to suck up to Beijing. This is squalid. We have got the measure of them, Conference. Just look at Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary. She's trying to convince us that she's tough, right? I remember when Shabana Mahmood tried to stop foreign criminals being deported. Do you remember that, Rob? I remember when she lay down on the ground in front of a Sainsbury's protesting because they were selling food from Israel. So forgive me if I treat this newfound tough image with a little skepticism. You remember. Labour represents everything that is wrong with politics. Rachel Reeves likes to congratulate herself for breaking the glass ceiling. What she's really broken is our economy. Attacking those who work hard, destroying business confidence, forcing wealth creators to leave the country, piling debt onto our children. We know that in her November budget of doom, she will give us all something to cry about. The highest business taxes since the 1970s, taxes on farmers, taxes on education, an unprecedented tax punishing parents who work hard to invest in their children's future. Shameful. The tax burden is so high, it is making Britain poorer because business is giving up. Business is leaving. And as they leave, or never start in the first place, people's livelihoods, people's hopes, people's dreams go with them. Grangemouth Refinery, gone. Merck, BMW, Ineos, pulling investment. Schools for children with special needs are shutting their doors. Farmers feeling they've got no way out. The London Stock Exchange dropping out of the world's top 20 for listings. Our party knows that a job is the best route out of poverty. We got unemployment to a 40-year low. And what has happened since Labour came in? A jobs tax, unemployment up, inflation up, borrowing up. These are the real-life consequences of a weak, directionless government. Conference, last year, the public voted for change, but all they have been given is change for the worse. And because they are still angry with us, parties that in normal times would never be seen as a serious option for government are gaining ground, making promises they will never be able to keep. Let's look at what's on offer out there for all those disappointed by Labour. Reform, promising free beer tomorrow. Jeremy Corbyn, promising free jam. Lib Dems, promising free lentils. All of them promising more spending, blowing up the public finances. Whether it's Starmer, Farage, Corbyn or Davey, all these men are shaking the same magic money tree. Following the same failed playbook, no plan for growth, no honesty about the scale of the challenges, and it always leads to the same result. More government, more taxes, more debt. It is irresponsible, it's cynical, and it's why Britain needs Conservatives back in charge. We can't beat them simply by attacking them. As George Bernard Shaw said, never wrestle with a pig. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it. We have to offer something better. So what are we going to do? Conference, as you may have heard, I am an engineer. My starting point is always to carry out a diagnosis before producing the blueprint to put it right. Since I became your leader, my shadow cabinet and I have analysed the problems facing the country. Our diagnosis is clear. Britain is being held back by a broken model. A model which says the government always knows best, that high immigration is always good for the economy, that Britain should apologise for its history rather than be proud of it. We lost because we accepted the status quo no more. When Margaret Thatcher was leader of the opposition, she said this: if every Labour government is prepared to reverse every Tory measure, while Conservative governments accept nearly all socialist measures, the end result is only too plain. She was right. To fix our country, we must reverse Labour's measures. So, we will cancel their vindictive tax on education. Vicky knows what's coming. We will scrap their tax on family farms. Andrew, we will scrap their tax on family businesses. And we will reverse the terrible measures in Angela Rayner's unemployment bill, written by the unions for the unions, a bill that will wrap firms in red tape, cost business £5 billion, and make Angela Rayner probably one of the last people in Britain to ever be legally sacked. The conference simply unwinding Labour's measures isn't enough. We are Conservatives, not anarchists. I am an engineer, not an arsonist. So together, thank you. So together, we are going to build something better. We are creating a blueprint for Britain, a new settlement based on Conservative values. So what's in it? First, securing our borders. On Sunday, I announced our plan to take the UK out of the ECHR, to scrap the Human Rights Act, to deport 150,000 illegal immigrants. This is a plan, not a slogan. Next in my blueprint, work and welfare. If we want to end our over-reliance on immigration, then we must make sure that every British citizen who can work does work. Right now, there are 6.5 million working-age adults claiming benefits instead of working. You heard me right, 6.5 million. That is the entire population of Cardiff and Belfast and Glasgow and Manchester combined, being paid to sit at home all day. We cannot expect people to get up and go to work and pay more and more in taxes to subsidise millions of others not to work. It should not be controversial to say this. Conference, we have done the hard work, and we have a plan to cut welfare spending. First, British benefits for British citizens. It is common sense that you should not draw out of a system that you haven't paid into. Second, we will restrict benefits to those with the more severe mental health conditions, not anxiety or mild depression. Yes, these challenges are real and people should get support, but they cannot be treated as a reason for a lifetime off work. And third, we will restrict mobility vehicles to people with serious disabilities. Those cars are not for people with ADHD. These are the first steps of a radical reform of our welfare system. We will return it to its founding principle, that support only goes to those that really need it. This should be common sense, but only the Conservatives understand this. Labour, Lib Dems, Greens, the Nationalists and Reform are all demanding more welfare spending. They don't care that it's not fair, but we do. After COVID, 2,000 people a day were being signed onto out-of-work sickness benefits. It is a national tragedy that in just 1 year of Labour, the latest figure has more than doubled. 5,000 new people are signing on each and every single day. Many are young people who are losing the chance to make something of themselves, never knowing what it's like to pay their own way. This isn't just about saving money, important though that is. It's far more than that. It is driven by our deep Conservative conviction that work is a good in itself. And as people work, as they strive, as they provide for themselves and their families, they should not pay more and more of their money in taxes to a state that provides less and less. So fixing the state is next in our blueprint. Since Brexit and COVID, the size of the civil service has swollen by over a third. There are now more than 500,000 civil servants. And have you noticed? Is government working a third better for you? I don't think so. So we are going to reverse this. We are going to cut the civil service back to where it was in 2016. And as Conservatives, we don't just believe in reducing the size of the state. I have always said that while government should do less, what it does, it should do well. Let me give you an example. Conservatives are proud of our police. Unlike Labour, we will always have their back. But security and prosperity cannot exist in a country where the law is mocked, where crime is ignored, and where criminals laugh at justice. Right now, tens of thousands of police hours are wasted every year on non-crime hate incidents and form filling. Officers chasing tweets instead of thieves. The Shadow Justice Secretary is stopping more fare evaders than Transport for London. Thank you, Rob. Conference, we are going to free the police to protect the public, not to chase political correctness. Right now, our police are spending 800,000 hours every single year waiting with mental health patients. 800,000 hours. That's the equivalent of 400 police officers doing nothing else all year except waiting around. No more. Every single officer we free from pointless paperwork, we will put back on our streets. We will send them after the shoplifters, making life a misery for high streets. And we will triple stop and search, because the more people we stop, the more people we search, the more knives we take off the streets. Across public services, we are developing similarly detailed plans to make things work better. In the NHS, industrial action has kept waiting lists high for far too long. Enough is enough. We will ban doctors from going on strike. In education, Labour have bent over to the teaching unions and are removing our academy freedoms, which have been so successful. We will reverse this act of educational vandalism, and we will make sure that brilliant schools and teachers have the freedom to do what they do best: teach. Because education should be how people change their lives. It should help you develop the skills you need to get on in life. It should ensure you get the job you want. So, if your name's Rachel, you can be an economist instead of working in customer complaints. And speaking of customer complaints, let's talk about university. Every year, thousands of young people go off to university, but leave with crippling debt and no real prospects. Nearly 1 in 3 graduates see no economic return, and every year, taxpayers write off over £7 billion in unpaid student loans. Wasted money, wasted talent. That's every year. A rigged system propping up low-quality courses while people can't get high-quality apprenticeships that lead to real jobs. And this is personal for me. I did 2 degrees, one in engineering, one in law. But I also had an apprenticeship first. And while I can't remember how to do parallel integration, I can remember how to fix a broken computer, which I learned to do during my apprenticeship. I was working with adults, I was paying my own way, and it gave an 18-year-old me a self-confidence that my university degrees never did. And unlike my degrees, I wasn't left with any debt. So we will shut down rip-off courses and use the money to double the apprenticeship budget. We'll be giving thousands more young people the chance of a proper start in life, just like I had. Which brings me, conference, to the most important task that we will face and the centrepiece of our blueprint. The reason why the Conservative Party is the only party in Britain who can be trusted to meet the test of our generation is that none of this works without a strong economy. Securing our borders, getting people into work, policing our streets, defending the nation, none of it is possible without the money to pay for it. And we are the only party with a plan to get our economy back on track. It starts with fiscal responsibility. We have to get the deficit down. And we must also show how every tax cut or spending increase is paid for. So today, I am introducing a new golden economic rule. Every pound we save will be put to work. At least half will go towards cutting the deficit, because living within our means is our first priority. And with the rest, we will get Britain growing and bring down the taxes that are stifling our economy. Over the next decade, Rachel Reeves is going to double the deficit with her borrowing and tax doom loop. She is stealing from our children and grandchildren, and Conservatives will put an end to it. We will always explain up front where we will make these savings. We're not going to do what Labour did, promise not to cut public spending, only to snatch away pensioners' winter fuel payments. We are doing things differently. Thanks to the hard work of the Shadow Cabinet, we have already identified £47 billion in savings. Pretty has earmarked £7 billion from the overseas aid budget. Alex has identified £8 billion from cutting the civil service. And Helen has found £23 billion from welfare. Under our golden rule, half of those savings will go towards reducing Labour's deficit. With the rest, we are going to unleash our economy. That's the Conservative way. Responsibility today, opportunity tomorrow. Like so many young people, all of my first jobs were on the high street. Yes, in McDonald's. Have I ever mentioned that? But it wasn't just me. All of my friends were doing similar jobs. Cafes, local pubs, family-run shops, the places that make our high streets what they are. The shops and businesses essential to communities in every town and village. And so on Monday, you heard Mel make our commitment to abolish their business rates. So whether you're a councillor, a mayoral candidate, campaigner, I want you to go out there and spread the word that the Conservatives are bringing back the high street. Conference, energy is growth. It always has been, and it always will be. Countries with cheap energy grow faster. Countries with expensive energy decline. Right now, we pay 4 times what industry in the US does for electricity. The result? We are deindustrializing. It's not just manufacturing that is disappearing, not just steel, not just chemicals, not just ceramics, not just oil and gas. We are losing our farming industry. We are losing our fishing industry. These are the foundations of a strong economy, and they are going all because we chose a slogan of net zero over a serious strategy for a stronger economy and a better environment. So I am saying enough. I am reversing this. We will get rid of the Climate Change Act and replace it with a proper strategy that actually works. A strategy which protects the natural environment and the landscapes we love. A strategy that takes sensible steps to tackle climate change without bankrupting ourselves in the process. We will cut bills for families, slash costs for businesses, end the madness that you have to tear out your boiler or disconnect your gas hob. We are going to bring industry and jobs back home. This is real action, Conference, not slogans. Conference, I am not a climate change skeptic, but I am a net zero skeptic. Britain has already done more than any major country to cut emissions. But we cannot have a law which will make this country poorer while creating jobs abroad and increasing our reliance on hostile states. So we will axe the carbon tax on electricity. We will scrap Labour's wind and solar levy, and instead we will give you our cheap power plan. Through this plan, we will cut bills by £165 for the average family, nearly £5,000 for the average restaurant, and over £1,100 for the average pub. These are savings that can be passed on to consumers. So, Conference, I won't promise you free beer, but I do want you all to have cheaper beer. So now it is time to put British prosperity first. Give this country the cheap, reliable energy it needs to thrive again. backing nuclear, but also recognising that it is pure folly to ban new oil and gas extraction while paying to import resources that Norway takes from the very same basin. So when it comes to the North Sea, we have a very simple policy. Drill our oil and gas now. Conference, you have seen it out there in the fringes all over Manchester, that this is a party fizzing with ideas, building our policy programme, setting out our plans, a tax cut for our high streets, a helping hand for the young with our first jobs bonus, reforms to welfare, 10,000 new police officers, tripling stop and search, scrapping the sentencing council, a new removals force, improving behaviour in schools, doubling apprenticeships, support for our veterans, £165 off your electricity bills, drilling in the North Sea, an end to the energy profits levy, scrapping the family farm tax, scrapping the family business tax, scrapping VAT on school fees, out to the ECHR, a plan for our borders, a plan for a stronger economy. Thank you. And conference, because of all the savings we found and costed, because of the tough decisions on what the government shouldn't do, because of our golden economic rule, we can afford to make one more announcement. As the Conservative Party, we know who our people are. They are people who work hard. They are the people who save hard. They are the people who understand the importance of putting down roots. They are the people who make sacrifices today for a better life tomorrow. They do the right thing. Our people are the Brits who want to get ahead in life. At the heart of a conservative Britain is a country where people who wish to own their own home can. I remember the joy when I got the first set of keys to my first flat, the excitement of opening my own front door for the very first time, the smell of the fresh paint. I remember it just like yesterday. I want everyone in our country to have that feeling, to know it's your place, your house, your home. We Conservatives believe that owning your own home gives you a real stake in society, roots in your community. But our housing market is not working as it should. There is a big barrier that keeps getting in the way. That barrier, conference, is the tax you have to pay when you buy your home. I haven't even said what it is yet, but you all know. You all know that that barrier is stamp duty. Young people trapped in the pain of renting, workers who want to further their career, pensioners who want to downsize but can't afford the thousands of pounds they have to pay in tax. Conference, stamp duty is a bad tax. It is an unconservative tax. The last Conservative government cut stamp duty for thousands of home buyers. But now we must go further. We must free up our housing market, because a society where no one can afford to buy or move is a society where social mobility is dead. So I have looked at the stamp duty thresholds to see where we can change them. I have looked at the rates you have to pay to see if we can lower them. I have decided that we can't, because that simply wouldn't be enough. Conference, the next Conservative government will abolish stamp duty on your home. will be gone. I thought you'd like that one. Thank you. Thank you. That is how we will help achieve the dream of home ownership for millions. Home ownership should be a dream that's open to everyone. Abolishing stamp duty on your home is a key to unlock a fairer and more aspirational society. We cannot unpick every tax. The debt, the deficit, and the damage this Labour government is creating means we cannot do everything all at once. Scrapping stamp duty will benefit people of all ages because conservatism must speak to all generations. The young professional buying their first flat, the couple looking for somewhere to bring up their first baby, the growing family hunting for their forever home, the pensioner who wants somewhere a little smaller or maybe to move nearer the grandchildren. No longer will they be punished with a tax that is a barrier to doing the right thing for them, for their family, and for society. Thank you. And this change will bring wider benefits to our economy too. Because every time a home is sold, it triggers a chain reaction of activity. Movers, builders, decorators, flat pack furniture and DIY, trips to Next, John Lewis and IKEA. And I can afford to do this while still leaving space within my golden economic rule. Because that's the fiscally prudent way to do things. That's what Conservatives do. Conference, I want to see a better Britain, where people have a brighter and more prosperous future. The Labour Party fails when it follows its principles. We fail when we don't follow ours. We are going to follow the same timeless Conservative principles which have led us to success in the past. Personal responsibility, free enterprise, family, freedom of speech. People want to know what I stand for? I stand for a government that takes less of your money and doesn't interfere in your life, where the state does less but does it better, where those who create wealth are welcomed with open arms, not driven from our shores, where reward matches effort, where Britain stands tall in the world. I stand for an economy where profit is not a dirty word, where enterprise is supported, not crushed. I stand for a country where what you put in determines what you get out, where excellence is celebrated. I stand for a country where actions have consequences, where we talk about responsibilities as well as rights, where crime is punished and justice is served, where the welfare of victims outweighs the welfare of criminals. I stand for a society where free speech trumps hurt feelings, where everyone knows what a woman is, where people are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin, where the vulnerable are supported, but where freeloaders are told where to get off. Conference, I stand for stronger borders and a stronger economy so that the young can fulfill their potential, the old can live out their years in dignity, and everyone can achieve their dreams to own a home, run a business, raise a family. This is the Britain I stand for. If it is the Britain you stand for, then stand with me and let's build it together.